Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. We're very pleased to have you with us today. Today we're going to talk about onboarding, and poor onboarding or no onboarding at all is a main reason why people opt out. Automation and onboarding are inextricably connected, and today we will look more closely at what onboarding is exactly, how to build a journey, what you should discuss in your emails, and some tips for the various types of onboarding emails. And we will end the webinar today with 2 bonus tips. So let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Let me just introduce us both. I am Katelen. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Flexmail, and I'm mainly focused on helping our customer to get the best out of Flexmail, but also their email campaigns. And then we have Michelle. She's our business and product lead. She mainly focuses on leading the team and making sure the product improves at all times.
So you mainly send onboarding emails to help new customers use your product or service and to get value from it. So educating customers and prospects about the key benefits of the product and helping them reach the aha moment of your product or service is one of the most effective ways to win new customers and drive long-term engagement. So why are onboarding emails so powerful? That's about your contact-specific action. And it's often the first time this person has or comes into contact with you. Maybe he has just performed a transaction or he has contacted you for the very first time. And the first emails you will send will get the highest open rates as by default. So if those first emails are good, you make a fantastic first impression. It will probably prolong the entire process during which a recipient continues to be committed and engaged with you. So onboarding emails are sent directly after a new customer buys a product, or, which is the case more often, subscribes to a service or even your newsletters. And they immediately show your customer or prospect that you as a brand appreciate them. They can also serve other purposes, like welcoming a new customer or subscriber, or offering instructions on the use of your product or service, encourage them for further commitment and interaction, cross-selling or upselling other offers, or replying to all other questions a new customer might have.
So there are many reasons why onboarding became such a hot topic in the past decade. The primary reason is probably that the customer's expectation have increased. Customers do not expect that they have to figure it out themselves after the sales. They still expect the same level of support and service as they make the decision to continue with you.
So how are you going to start with an onboarding flow? First, you need to figure out what the journey of your contact looks like. So to be able to set that up, you first need to know what his thoughts and opinions are during your sign-up process. So there are some questions to guide you in your thinking process. For example, what exactly do you want to optimize? Is that sales? Is that engagement? Is that first use of your product? How did these people find you? What did they think at that moment? What are they looking for specifically? What do they already know about you? And in the case of prospects, how much time is there on average between the first moments of contact and the specific sale? And when they decide to buy, which arguments motivate them to do so? So what do they compare? When they make a comparison with your competitors, what is important there? What does your sales process look like? Which resources are available in your sales process? And how soon do you contact them? Is that within 24 hours, within the week? What are your prospects' questions and concerns at the moment at which they contact you? Which information can help your prospects to make the right choice? How do you make the difference? And are there any important moments in your sales process or use of your product you can respond to? So for Flexmail prospects, that could be creating their first email or signing up and trying out the trial account for the very first time. So based on these questions, you can start building your customer journey. And it could roughly look like this, which is a more extended version. But what's important is which phases do you want to distinguish and what communication are you going to send them in those different phases. So we will come back to this shortly.
To find the key to success for your onboarding flow, first, you have to look at your aha moments. But what are those now, those aha moments? An aha moment is called a moment which a new user becomes aware of your value or of your product for the first time. It is called a moment, but it's rather a series of actions that separates users who will probably buy from those who will churn. For example, for Facebook, this is when a new user connects with 7 friends within 10 days. In Dropbox, it's when a file is saved on a device. Every company has a unique aha moment, and for retentions to increase, it is crucial that this moment is discovered. Finding that aha moment is not an easy task, but we will provide you with a step-by-step description and guide you through the process. In software, this seems to be very specific, but regardless of that, regardless of your product or service that you sell, you can still discover an aha moment. And before we start with that, you should really know that although these figures seem to be very specific, they are anything but that. One Facebook user may be addicted after having added 3 friends in 10 days, whereas another user may churn after having already added 12 friends in 3 days. The advantage of defining an aha moment is that it unifies the entire company around a clear, meaningful, and guiding theme. We will have now, you see 2 examples. On the left, you see an email from Runkeeper. They will send you an email when you've broken a personal record. The goal is clear. They want you to feel good. They motivate you to keep on using their app. And on the right side, you see an email of Harry's. Harry's is, they have shaving products. So they estimate when your order has arrived, and then they send you an email with some tips for best practices to start using the products correctly. So first, with those aha moments, you need to discover and test, most of all, test as well. What are those aha moments of your products or service? These will become your micro goals, which allow you to work your way back to the content you need to send by email.
So for every object, you have to identify the major bottlenecks that prevent your contacts from reaching that milestone. This could be because they are not sufficiently motivated or because they do not know what to do next exactly. So although emails are not the right vehicle to teach users how to do something, that's better for video or how-to guides, they can be very valuable to teach users why they should do it. And this may increase their motivation and help them move ahead in your onboarding flow. So sending the right email at just the right time with just the right content is crucial. So for a step-by-step plan, you first need to discover how long converting a new contact takes on average. And then you're going to build a hypothesis. What are the convincing arguments for conversion, or what should a prospect have seen or done at least? Once you know the average conversion time, making hypotheses about the actions or functions that may impact retention is the next step. A good first step is to look at or ask your most loyal users and compare that information with the prospects you have lost. What was the determining factor for them to not choose or to choose a competitor over you? Which actions did they perform, and which information was decisive there? And then for a third step, you want to test your hypothesis if you can. Are there any similarities among your new customers? Is this information correct for the majority of them? And then you're going to start setting up your email flow. So the onboarding flow of a software as a service company such as Flexmail, let's suppose we offer a trial of 14 days, for example, could look like this. So oftentimes, most conversions happen early on in the testing period. So you want to start strong and have a high frequency there. And you probably also have to compete with competitors in this stage. So let's start with a welcome email. Then we will highlight a number of important features, and on day 3, we try to convince them with a customer case. The second part of the flow focuses more on correctly informing your recipients about the course of the trial and once they've reached the end of those 14 days. That's for software. Let's take another more offline example. Let's say we sell windows and doors. The onboarding flow for such a business could look like this. And here too, after the first application or people filling in a contact form, for example, we start with a clear confirmation that we've received their data and their application correctly. We then position ourselves as a strong and reliable and professional partner for your renovation project. We can explain our expertise and professional knowledge even more in the following days via a video about the day of installation, a tour of the workshop, and a case study of a satisfied customer. Here too, you can notice that we try to emphasize our distinctiveness compared to other competitors as much as possible.
So let's talk about the components of a strong onboarding emails and what do you put in those emails. We've seen the flow already, but what does actually go into these emails and what are the best onboarding emails include? So first of all, of course, a clear value proposition, a positive acknowledgement, and trigger based on context or behavior. And this is why you want to include them and why they are important to use. So a strong value proposition reminds people of their original intentions. And on the focusing on the why, context will reach their aha moment sooner if they know why they should use or buy your product or service. This means that onboarding mails should focus on the issues and solution rather than only on the features and the technical aspects of it. So why is this solution, product, or service good for me? Something to keep in mind is that people do not buy products, they buy better versions of themselves. This was said by Samuel Hullick. And you can emphasize both the benefits of using your product and the risk of not using it. So don't be afraid to repeat your value proposition. We all need reminders and repetition before we actually internalize something. So an extra tip would be to tailor the unique selling propositions or value propositions to the target group you sent your emails to, depending on their function, on their product group or background. This is most important reason. Most important reason could be a totally different thing for each group individually. And we have, of course, the positive acknowledgement. Motivation is clearly one of the core components that draws people to value. And a simple way to increase it is by giving them positive acknowledgement. People are preconditioned to look for rewards. So due to the expectations of success, dopamine is released, which can give you that energy boost required to participate in your product or take further action. It is the same reason why ticking off that to-do list is so satisfying for us all. I have 3 examples. On the left, you'll see an email from Grammarly. They actually show you where you are along their start process or their launch process. You know exactly where you are. On the left, Coco is another example that they show you that you've accumulated promotion points and you can get more. And they encourage you to collect even more. And then we have on the right side, Dropbox, where you see clearly how many tasks you've already checked off that checklist. And then the third one, as we mentioned as well, is that behavior, the triggers of behavior and contact. So not all customer journeys are the same, of course. Someone can be looking at your product or service or even on your website and then get a phone call and then forget all about it. Other can register, discover some core elements, but not convert immediately. And then yet you still have that other side that is just cruising around, just checking what you have, and his conversion is really the furthest of their mind. So sending emails with content concerning a user-specific progress such as the welcome email after the registration, holds the user's attention and sets the right tone. So it's important to remember, as we said in the first, that if your first email you send yields to have the highest open rate. So that should set your tone. If you fail to seize that opportunity, people would be indifferent to your communication for the simple reason that your emails aren't relevant for them. By taking their action or behavior into account, you can ensure that your emails help your contacts on their journey. And exactly at that moment at which they need your information, you'll be using your aha moment as a basis. Your emails have a clear proposition and include a single but clear call to action. This call to action has to guide your prospects to the most important action they have not yet completed. So another tip for this one is if you automate your data collection, your communication can be even more powerful than before. And you can do this via integration possibility like Zapier or your own API connection.
But what do you want to put in those emails? So there are several that you can include, but we've included the 10 types we think that are used the most. And we want to look at a few different types of them within onboarding and the tips that you can apply to them as well. So let's start with the welcome email, of course. The goal is very clear here. We want to train our subscribers to open our emails and make it clear what they can expect from us, what we will be emailing about and how often, for example. And we want to send that immediately after the registration or the moment that they came into contact with us. So the welcome email is the very first email a contact receives from you, and this makes it the email with the highest open rate you will ever send. So given the high level of commitment of that email, you could be tempted to include as much information as possible or even multiple aggressive call to actions, but that's not the best idea. What do you want to do then? So the welcome email serves the purpose of creating the proper expectations and introducing people to you or to your products or your service. So this means it is informative by nature and it includes only one or a limited number of calls to action. And it guides your visitors to the next relevant step or the information that is most important to them at the start of their journey.
Then you have the personal emails, which you can use in two ways. Of course, a purpose for this personal email is to start a conversation, introducing yourself like a real human, collecting useful feedback, or making sure that recipient books an interview with you or a meeting with you. When should you send this? Mostly it's better to do it within the 24 hours after registration to make it look more personal. But if you want to make it look even more personal, then postpone the sending of this particular email until a few hours after registration, as then it doesn't look that it's an immediate action and an actual person, so your real human sent you this email. With the personal welcome emails, are always a great way to start a conversation with a new customers. Seize that opportunity to find out what they want to achieve by using your product or service so that you can guide them into the right direction. If you want to automate this type of email, see to that it's not sent in the middle of the night or even just a few seconds, like I said before, a few seconds after they just registered. It just doesn't come off as personal. So the personal email can look like the welcome email, but it has a human twist and should lead to a real conversation eventually. Then you have another approach is the helping hand. The helping hand, instead of using the semi-personal emails at the start of your new relationship, they can also be used in a later phase. In that case, the purpose is rather to ensure that your subscriber have everything they need to become a successful and loyal customer. And at this moment, you should try to ensure that those who register have everything they need to become these successful, loyal customers. You can use it as a parallel in your sales process as well. So to introduce your support team, to give personal persons you can get not in touch with by phone, you can do that as a follow-up, or even to secure the loyalty of your customers who have recently bought something. So for many companies, customer who subscribes to their service, that's only the beginning. To gain a new customer's loyalty and increase the chance of retention, they have to start using the product. The sooner they experience the benefits of the offer, the better. This is why many brands use a first onboarding email as a kind of explanation. These messages not only welcome the customer, but they also explain the basis of the service or product to which the customers have subscribed. It is a smart way to just remind your customers of why they have subscribed. It will always encourage them to use the service, to reap the benefits. The email reminds them of that, and that's what we need, a reminder sometimes.
So in addition to the intros, you also have the more practical getting started emails. And the purpose is really simple. It's urging people to take the next step. And you want to send this when new subscribers have not yet taken the desired action, or when you want to guide them towards the next step, of course. And the getting started email can be sent in addition to or instead of a welcome message. And the sooner users take action, the sooner they can extract value from your product or your service. So if you offer a free trial period, for example, it is essential that people can get started as soon as possible. So do not overdo it by sending people a long email. Using the getting started email or use the getting started email to make new customers, take one single step. So here you can find an example of Zapier. You can see that the user has registered for a free trial period, but has not done much. And with that knowledge, they can activate a highly specific email, which provides ideas for using Zapier and focuses on giving inspiration to build your own connection. Havenly opts for a more extensive design, and here they focus on 3 next steps instead of 1, which makes the email longer, but the object or the goal is the same. It helps you achieve your goal. You are right to ask for a trial at Havenly, and it should be easy to start.
In addition to this, you also have your product tip, with the purpose of providing value-based product information and encouraging the user to complete the next step into the introduction. This should be sent, depending on your schedule, on alternating days is a good choice always, because competition can be fierce. Additionally, you want your prospects or subscribers to get to know the most important information about your product so that they can make a well-considered decision or choice. Perhaps people are initially overwhelmed by your product offer, or maybe there is lots to discover. So try to provide them real value here. After all, this is not a sales email. So it's really not a sales email. You already have their attention. So help them to be successful and solve a problem, and simultaneously make your most important features or functions, products stand out. You can use, for example, a product training video, GIFs, webinars, or a blog to present the information even more attractively and more clearly.
The next email is a case, which has a very clear purpose. You're trying to remove any objections and seeing to social proof. And you should send this, depending on your schedule, 1 to 3 emails with case studies. So until now, all content has come from you or your business in the previous examples. So recommendations, however, will always be more effective if they come from somebody we trust. That could be another customer in our industry or just someone we can relate to. And that's also why word of mouth advertising works so well. So a case is quite extensive, but testimonials and reviews can also have excellent results. So think of how you can, let me put this a little bit bigger. Yeah, think of how you can integrate one of the 5-star reviews you had on Google, or a video testimony, or even an interview you had with a customer as content in your email. By bringing up customers and case studies, You offer a brilliant way to give your subscribers the feeling that they are part of the community. And if use cases and scenarios are emphasized, your product seems to be a lot more usable immediately. So it is also the ideal email to put to use an eye-catching subject line for, with striking statistics or figures for good use.
And then, of course, we have that motivation, the motivating or motivational email, where the pure purpose is to celebrate that success. So it should be sent after a contact has completed a specific action successfully. People are always preconditioned to look for awards, like I've said. So if you have the possibility to celebrate successes, please, by all means, do it. Don't hesitate and just celebrate successes. Like here in this example in Poly, the subject says, "Nice job sending your first Poly." So it already gives you a very good feeling that you're celebrating it. And this principle is also known as a Zeigarnik effect, the effect of loose ends or endowed progress effect. So we're all more committed to completing a goal when we have made some progress. That's a very good one to remember, as it is important to celebrate.
One of the last emails to send and to still heat in your offer is a closure email. And the purpose is that you want to let your users or your contacts or your customers know that they have to act quickly and that immediate action is required. You can also use this when you're trying to promote promos, for example. So it should be sent 24 to 72 hours before the trial period or your promotion expires. And it's your last chance of conversion, basically. So you don't want to beat around the bush here. The clock is ticking. And this is the moment to intensify the sense of urgency and encourage those who have registered to ensure that they understand that your time together is almost over, unless they subscribe or buy, of course. So creating the proper sense of urgency depends on the right timing. The day on which a promotion ends or the last days before a trial period expires is the ideal moment to send your reminder. So what should this last opportunity email include? Nothing motivates people more than telling them what they will miss exactly. So in psychology, this is called loss aversion. So ask yourself, what will my users or customers miss out on if they do not upgrade or convert right now? And use that in your content.
And then, of course, we have those upgrades and upsell emails, which is the full purpose of this is to ensure that your prospects or customers make the transition from that entry package to a more expensive alternative with more possibilities. So this should be sent periodically. It can be repeated, this message, to make sure that most upgrade emails also function a little bit as an activity update email. To summarize what you have done with products and service, this target group already has extracted some value from your product or service, and they already know you. And you have already collected some information about their needs, their interests, and this makes them the right target for an upsell. An upsell, the word itself, has a little bit a negative ring to it, which is a pity, because upsells can really add value for customers. If you create your emails correctly, you can integrate upsells correctly with your email campaign without irritating any of your customers. Better still, yet they will appreciate it. If you keep them informed about something amazing or great that would fit them, otherwise they would miss it if they wouldn't hear it from you. So of course, this requires some knowledge about them and empathy with your target group. So make sure that you know who they are, and then it's not a negative thing. It's helpful.
So the next one is a survey email, and the purpose is understanding why prospects did not buy. And you want to send this at the moment that leaves sufficient time for closure and for giving people a chance and motivation to leave some feedback. So not too late either. You don't want to wait a year with asking this question. So this email is used for collecting information about why people have not bought, and it helps you improve your product or service or provide a better experience during your onboarding. So in some cases, you may win someone back in the long term, but that's not the specific goal of this email. It's especially important that you gain insight into possible objections, and that you solve any user problems for your onboarding or win back process in the future.
And then lastly, you have your review email. The word says itself. So having your users leave a review at review sites as Capterra, Google, or Trustpilot. So this should be sent only after a user has actively used your product or service for at least 1 month. Or if the user has already been converted into a customer, that's another time to send it. And in this email, you ask your contacts to leave a review, possibly in exchange for a coupon or gift vouchers or anything that you could provide them to thank them for their review. To receive a review, you need to have generated enough goodwill with your satisfied customers. So choose the best moment carefully at which you have the best opportunity to approach them.
So finally, before this webinar ends, we have 2 bonuses for you. And the first bonus is best practices for writing your onboarding emails. So creating a positive onboarding is one of the key elements to encourage conversion and customer retention through marketing or email marketing. And it's an extra reason to ensure that the timing, the content, and the anatomy are exactly right. So for our final tips and best practices, you probably noticed that most of our onboarding examples previously were fairly brief and to the point, right? So, of course, there is much discussion about the ideal length of an email. And in terms of results, brief and to the point appears to work best. So do not start counting words obsessively now, but think about your object in the first place or your goal. In most cases, you do not need to give detailed tutorials or instructions in your email. It's only necessary after your readers have clicked your call to action. Your email should arouse their interest. And you can go into detail, but try to convey your message in as few words as possible and delete superfluous introductions or words that do not add anything to the message. So let's have a look at this example from Otter. There are brief sentences. We can find a clear call to action, and yet the tone of the email feels very positive and encouraging at the same time. Also, make your emails sound like a human actually wrote them and don't write like a robot. We also emphasize this tip in our webinar about copywriting, but mainly you want to do everything you can to make your emails friendly. Especially if your onboarding is sales-oriented, you will probably not be the only party that approaches your recipient with the same type of content. And your helping hand, the soul of your company, and possibly your personal approach should become clear from these emails, should shine through. So you make sure you actually focus on these. People know you will be sending this through automation and that you will not write them personally every single time. And you don't have to. But it does not mean that your emails have to be boring or that the personal element can be left out entirely. So besides using a clear voice, there are other strategies you can use to make your email sound more human, like presenting real employees or photos of customers, emphasizing social proof and your customers' positive feedback, sending some of your onboarding emails from an employee account, for example, or email address, and introducing real people and real colleagues in your emails that they will encounter later on or during the sales process. And then also the choice between opening and not opening an email often depends on the subject line. So you want to avoid generic subject lines, of course. And general subject lines like step number 2, how to use X, are not terrible by definition, but they're not very exciting either. So we've collected some recent subject lines of onboarding emails that arouse more interest, like gotcha, what do you want to organize now for an event scheduling app? Now that you've become pro, we won't give you the whole story yet for a company called Full Story. And does your team also spend 80% of its time on this? which is trying to spike your interest. Then also images are important for your onboarding emails. You can use them to convey a large part of your message. So it's important that they support the message instead of detracting from it. What do we mean by that? Crowding your emails with lots of images, buttons, and links could be too much for your reader at that specific point. Onboarding emails are mostly about the next steps to take. So dumping many links and images in the hope that somebody clicks something just won't do. The best emails are minimalist and to the point, and this type of email makes it hard to miss important information and your next call to action.
So let's talk about the next bonus, our second bonus with 4 tips for onboarding emails that incite people to take action. First up is the follow-up required for active users is very different to the ones that are inactive. But yes, everybody should receive their welcome email. Next to that, however, your contacts can flow into various series depending on their activity. So ask yourself, have they used a specific function, or have they visited the website or a specific page, clicked on a link, have they made a purchase or not? So these are a few questions to identify already in the different flows that they could be in. The second tip would be make personalization a priority. You can personalize your onboarding even further as you collect more data about your contacts. And this doesn't mean just their first name, but it's especially about that relevance. If you make sure you segment your target group, the emails you send can be much more purposeful and much more relevant. So make sure that you also personalize on that. The third one is stick to only one subject and one call to action per mail. Why is this? You don't want to let your contacts or recipients doubt or stress out because there's an overkill of buttons. If they cannot choose at that time, it is much easier to not do anything at all. So do not try to squeeze everything in there, too many arguments into one single email. Split the messages, the arguments, and increase your frequency instead. Lastly, of our 4 tips is make sure you know when to use HTML versus the plain text. They both have their own benefits and work best on specific moments. So in comparison with HTML, emails with plain text are more personal and easier to read usually. And then the other way around, in comparison with emails with plain text and HTML actually offers more flexibility in the layout. And then despite their clarity, emails with plain text do not have the attractiveness provided by the HTML emails. So make sure that you know what fits best at what specific time.
So to finish, let's quickly go back to the beginning of this webinar. We have collected a lot of data. We've drawn up a hypothesis, and we think we've gathered enough information and that we have chosen the right touch points, aha moments, and call to actions. We think we've chosen the right text and the right approach, but this still involves a lot of guesswork and making assumptions. And automation has the big risk that once you have set up the flow, you will not think about it anymore. So automation emails are often checked to see whether the content is still up to date, if the links are still working. But it's more important even to have a close look at your figures, your data, your open rates, click rates. So which emails in your scenario work best and which are least effective? Do certain figures or rates stand out? Can people find the buttons they need? And are the results consistent with your expectations? So that concludes our onboarding webinar for today. If you're looking for more practical tips on how you need to set up your automation in Flexmail, there's another recording that our support colleague Brenda recorded about setting up your automation in Flexmail that could be interesting. And there are also a couple of webinars about content and design specifically. So if you're interested in that, definitely go check out those on our blog as well. If you have any questions, you can still use the chat function on the right side of the screen. And otherwise, if you want us to have a look at your automation with you, you can always contact us. But mainly, just a big thank you for sticking with us through this webinar. And if you have any questions left, please feel free to contact us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.